We're coming in hot with inspiring guests, witty banter, and colorful commentary for today's veterans and military community. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
All right, Alphas, thank you so much for hanging out with us for another week. I am excited for our interview today. I'm excited to talk to you about anything and everything that is going on in your life, in your mind. You know what's in my mind this week, Amy? Veterans Day deals.
Yay!
Yay. So every year, military.com compiles a list of Veterans Day discounts on like restaurants, different items, goods, services, events. You can start your day with coffee at chains like Starbucks, Big B. I've never been to a Big B. I don't know if you have. Caribou. Grab lunch at Chili's. You can get a chicken salad chick or White Castles and end the day with deals at Carrabba's, Hooters, or Logan's Roadhouse. And it's not just free food. You can get free car washes, haircuts, discounts on everything from tires to office supplies to everything you need for your next DIY project. I know you can also get oil changes in a lot of places, which is great. Everything from zoos to museums and amusement parks across the country offer free admission for veterans, service members, and their families. We'll have the links to the full list of discounts in the show notes from military.com. Every year, they compile that list. And we'll also put in the show notes legion.org's Veterans Day deals, so you can check that out, because we gotta big up the Legion's list, right? It's going to be the best list. So let's talk about this, Amy. Is there a strategy? What do you think? Do you go out and do you get your deals? How do you make the most of it?
You know what? I stay off the roads that day because it's so wonderful to see these companies that have extended invitations to veterans and their families. But what's happened, I feel like, over the years is that the lines get so long. It's not enjoyable. But for those veterans out there who deserve it and who want to partake, I think it's amazing if you can just find that right place to go to without the lines. But it's the day that America celebrates our amazing veterans, and corporate America is also jumping in on that and just really showing their appreciation. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't go out and do it on Veterans Day. Lines are too long, but I also like my version of a discount is like, what can I grab out of a dumpster? I am the lowest of the low. So 10% for me, I'm like, that's great. That's awesome. I want everybody out there to go enjoy it. But like most of my house is furnished from back alleys. So, you should just know that. Some things to know, like I know people that definitely they go and they try to hit everything they possibly can. And especially with how tight money can be, this could be a big day for people to save money in whatever way they can. Get your oil change, you can get your car washed, maybe get something to eat for your family when you don't normally eat out. Something to keep in mind is if an organization or a company asks to photocopy your military ID, you say no. You scream it. You scream no. That is illegal unless it is like a healthcare place or it is an actual military entity. Applebee's does not need a photocopy of your ID. That's a scam. Sorry, Applebee's. You wouldn't do that to us, I know. But yeah, so just I've heard some people that have had to give out copies of their ID, and I'm always like, no, be careful with that. So.
Yeah. And, that's a good reminder, just being wary of any company or organization that wants to, try to take advantage of veterans too, because there are companies out there that will make promises and not deliver. And so it's just a good reminder if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. And so, but not those free meals and the free coffee or, the little freebies on that particular day. But if people do ask for an ID, you can show it to them. And because there are probably some scammers out there who would try to take advantage of that free stuff and try to pretend to be a veteran or claim to be someone that they're not, just to reap those benefits. But like you said, yeah, protecting your ID card with everything you can and not just photocopy it for sure.
Yeah, these are usually some good videos come out of Veterans Day deals, people trying to scam it, where they'll have on like mismatched uniforms. You know, they've got like BDUs, ABUs, they found an OCP hat, they're trying to get 10% off, and then you see a bunch of guys that are like, where did you serve? That ends up on TikTok, and those are usually a good time, because that guy should not be doing that. Definitely don't buy a bunch of clothes at your Army Navy store and try to get a discount. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So we have a great guest today. What do you think?
We do. Today, we'll be joined by retired U.S. Army Major Lisa Bass, who began her 20-year career as a 30-year-old private in the JAG Corps. She attended Airborne School and as a grandmother, and became the first female commander of the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team. Amazing, right? Lisa she's now the founder and owner of Combat Boots Jewelry, and founder and co-owner of Task Force Sisterhood Against Sexual Assaults. And so we'll be right back to talk with Lisa all about this and more. So stay with us.
Veterans, did you know that hearing loss and tinnitus are the top service-connected disabilities, and that treating hearing loss may lead to improvements in cognition and depression? Earlier this year, Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy presented his framework for a national strategy to advance social connection, expressing his commitment to combating the significant health consequences of isolation and loneliness. Staying connected is on everyone's mind, and a lack of connection can be exacerbated when someone experiences hearing loss. The Heroes with Hearing Loss program, provided by Hamilton Captel, supports veterans facing the challenges of hearing loss by sharing solutions that keep us connected. And now, the new Heroes Mobile Captel app for iOS and Android devices is available, allowing veterans with hearing loss to read captions of mobile calls. Download the Heroes Mobile Captel app at no cost and experience the same feature-rich caption telephone service that Hamilton Captel customers have relied on for years. Just search for Heroes Mobile Captel in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store today. For more information, including eligibility requirements, visit heroeswithhearingloss.org.
Welcome back, Alphas. I'm excited to talk to you again, and I'm excited for our awesome guest today. There's so much going on, and I can't wait to dive right into it. Welcome, Lisa Bass. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk with you. There's just so much to your story, and just reading your bio, it's exciting. And I'm also here joined with the fabulous Amy Forsyth. Amy, how you doing?
Hey, Ashley, and welcome, Lisa Bass. I mean, reading your bio, as you've walked it. You're a pathfinder. You've blazed that trail for the other folks coming up behind you.
Well, I do say, we did open my generation of women and the women that served before 1992. I want to salute you because you opened the doors for me to get to do what I got to do. And I had fun doing it. But we have an inherent responsibility to, feed that back into the younger generation so we can reduce that learning curve.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, reading your bio here, it says that you joined the Army at the age of 30. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Yes, ma'am. A 30-year-old private single parent with 3 kids and no high school education.
Wow.
And then I was enlisted into the JAG Corps as a legal specialist and received my bachelor's degree and went on to officer candidate school and was commissioned an engineer. And then as a grandmother, I went to Airborne School and then became the first female airborne commander in the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team. And from there, I have 2 combat tours in Iraq and then retired as a field grade officer and major as chief of troop construction at what was known as Fort Hood, Texas. So, yeah, I definitely enjoyed my ride.
It's the world's trying to hold Lisa back, and she's like, no. Camera's back. What made you had 3 kids, single mom. What made you say, hey, I'm going into the Army?
Yeah, I tried joining 3 times before and was told no. My grandmother was very, very patriotic from the World War II era, and I just followed her lead. Where I was raised at, in Montgomery, Alabama, there was a lot of Air Force that was there, and I waited on tables, and I used to wait on them, and I'd hear them telling their stories and the camaraderie, but I also knew I didn't want to go Air Force after waiting on tables with those guys. And the Army was my fit. That was me. It was where I looked at it. Marines were all muscular and using their body and physical, and then the Air Force was all brains. I felt like the Army was a mix of both worlds, and that's what I wanted to do.
Super neat.
Wow. What did your kids think at the time when you told them you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm doing this. I'm joining the Army. What did they think?
Well, I was on the delayed entry program, so it wasn't immediate. And so my family members didn't believe me. They just thought, yeah, okay, not possible, single parent. And I was finishing out some courses in college. And so my kids, the 2 young girls, they didn't realize what was going on, but my son was about 13. He did not want me to go because I'd been there every day in their lives. But in the end, I knew it was the best thing for them and for me to be able to give them a better life. In the end, I was so forward thinking, this generation, my kids will never have to depend on them. And I had that in mind. I didn't want them taking care of me when I got old. I'm able to sustain myself.
Well, your journey is definitely not the typical, 18-year-old guy who joins the Army, but that is why you are so special. And, as a veteran, not only did you just serve your 4 years, but you ended up spending 20 years in the Army. You made it a career, but then you had like a second life. You went on to do other things based on your career and more in the entrepreneurial spirit. So can you tell us your journey, your transition journey from retiring as a field grade officer to igniting that, spirit of entrepreneurialism and to help others?
Yeah, I've been doing this for about 11 years now since retirement. And I kind of question it myself, like, wait a minute, I could have double dipped like my fellow comrades who get out and, go into another job and retire. And it just that wasn't me. God did not make me that way. And I always like to say, if you were told you were the good idea fairy in the military, you might be an entrepreneur because that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur, is to have the ideas and to follow them through. And Uncle Sam teaches us that in the military. You come up with an idea and you come up with courses of action and you never give up. And that's the one key thing. You can never give up on enduring, because you're going to hear the no's, especially when you have something new, a new venture or a new idea that nobody's ever heard of. You're going to hear the no's, but you got to keep pressing forward. And I think the military teaches us how to do that.
And you've translated that passion through going through a couple of the courses. I love the Vwise. It's the Veteran Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurism from Syracuse University. Can you describe your experience with the Vwise program?
So I went through EBV, the Entrepreneurs Boot Camp for Veterans with Disability first. And that's when I found out about Vwise.
Okay.
And Vwise I did. So I originally owned a construction company when I first got off active duty. I'd started that in about my 15th year of service, because they say don't quit your day job for 5 years when you start a new business. And I really did have that time down. And by my 5th year in construction, I was retiring. And a lot of the guys that I deployed with in Iraq came to work with me in the construction company. But because we were all retired and we had deployed, construction wasn't as fun in the military, as in the civilian world, as it was in the military, when you're dealing with all those contracts. And we had the mindset of, you just make the mission happen. You make it happen, you gather your resources, and it doesn't work the same way in contracting. And so we said, well, let's go have fun in life. We've earned that. And it literally was on a construction site. And I was thinking about, the inner boots, and I could see the guys wearing the lanyards and the hats and the t-shirts. And I was like, wow, women they literally at that time did not have a way to represent that they wore the boots too. And so, I found myself on the construction site taking notes, sketching out like jewelry. Knew nothing about jewelry, knew nothing about those metals. I did metal roofs. I never dealt with metals and jewelry. But I did. I transitioned it out and ended up getting 3 trademarks on the combat boots to become jewelry. And so with Vwise, that allowed me to go over and talk to more and expose to women, because that's focused on the women area, where the EBV is more the meat and potatoes, where you learn to write the business plan. There's a business plan, competition, getting on, doing your little speech, your pitches and stuff. They expose you to more in the EBV than they did the Vwise, but the Vwise was more motivating in that, like, women talking more in our spirit, and they connected like that. And that's what I loved about Vwise.
Yeah, some really great transition programs for veterans who are interested in owning their own business, entrepreneur. They have an idea, they just don't know how to execute on it. And so that really gives you the foundation and connects you to some resources.
And I'm still actively involved, especially with the EBV program, because we have our national, I'm in Dallas, Texas. And Dr. Haney has the national convention every year in Dallas, Texas. And then I actually went to Texas A&M, so I do their reunions also. Everybody stays connected, and that it's a big family. Once you go, you're part of that family, and you always have access to the resources. So I can't talk enough. And I tell people, if they want to go, reach out to me. I'll do a letter of recommendation. I've been with the program for, over a decade.
Yeah, Dr. Haney is wonderful. I had the pleasure of hearing him speak at a Google conference here in San Diego years ago at the very beginning of the Vwise. But so from there, take us back. Then you went on, you founded In Her Boots. Talk to us about that.
So the Inner Boots program was developed in Iraq. My second tour in Iraq from 2010 and 11. And so I was at the J7, the engineers, at the higher levels at USFI headquarters. And so I sat through the briefings and hearing what was going on across the battlefield. And our sexual assaults were on the rise. And it was like beating a drum of what the recommendations, how to, deter all this from happening. And I realized then, not that it was my area, I was an engineer, I'm just the outsider listening to all this. And I said, they are so missing the point. What we are missing is women military leader mentors, mentoring those young female service members about how to come up through those ranks and sexual assault prevention strategies. And so created a group. It was not well received in the beginning. I was told no. I was told no by my battalion commander. I was told no by the highest at headquarters that I couldn't do a conference. I wanted to do a conference with all women on the battlefield that was in our area called Finding Your Voice. During this time, I had a colonel come in, a female colonel, Janice Dombey, and I had never worked one-on-one with a female colonel before because it was just, that was not heard of. And so here we are, 2 engineers, and I explained to her what I was doing on the side, and she absolutely loved it because she had been in for 34 years. And so she partnered up with me, and all of a sudden, all these senior female leaders started calling me saying, you don't know me, but I want to help. And we were able to put this thing together called Task Force SASA, which is Task Force Sisterhood Against Sexual Assault. and we created the In Her Boots program. And we traveled the battlefield talking to all the women that were in the brigades. The generals were flying us in from everywhere. I mean, it took off because it worked. Those young ladies said we would have monthly meetings that followed. And these young ladies said, they'd never seen another female unless they came to our meetings once a month. But we were always there, regardless on the battlefield. If they had any questions, maybe it was just professional development, they could reach out and call one of us to see what may be the best course of action or best way how to handle a situation. So we made ourselves available while teaching that skill set, because only the women that have been in her boots knows what it's going to take to come up those ranks.
Yeah. How is the program doing now? You're still actively involved in it, and
we are still actively involved. So what happened when we got back to now what was in Fort Hood, it was almost like what happens in Iraq stays in Iraq, and it was shut down. And we couldn't understand, to the point, the CG called me in and said, Lisa, I love you being chief of our troop construction, but quit talking to the females. And I said, you know what, sir, I got 20 years in. I'll just retire and I'll be back. But even up to in the last 6 months, we had an invitation from one of the brigades, one of the battalions within the brigade that Vanessa Gilliam was in. And it was still, even though the victim advocate reached out for us to come and talk to their soldiers, the brigade commander denied it. They didn't see the value in it. And so it's been a 10-year battle with the same resistance. When we wrote the book, I sent it to General Austin, Secretary of Defense now, and said, started this program up under you, and it was a success in Iraq, and we got no response. And so we just keep doing interviews like this. When we see young women, we reach out to them. I have a granddaughter. I mean, I believe in the military. My granddaughter joined the military. Now, if she'd been stationed at Fort Hood, I'd probably be parked right outside of Fort Hood, but I picked her job and she went to Alaska. And she's got a great unit up there, and she reaches out for that advice that, senior leaders should be giving their young troops. But what the benefit for our team, the Task Force SASA team, there's no familiarity, because familiarity breeds contempt. And so because we're outside of the chain of command, but we're about the mission, make no mistake about it. We understand what's going on really in a young lady's life. But it's all about the mission. It's about protecting our country. And if we can reduce those sexual assaults, because no commander wants to see that in front of them. They don't have time to deal with that. They've got to train those troops to get them out to do what we signed up to do, is to defend our country.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's ridiculous that you got told, stop talking. I think it's the same that what we hear with food insecurity. It's just, as soon as we admit there's a problem, then we have to do something real about it. So if they just decide, and it's ridiculous, Lisa, I won't have it.
And that's why we're still the voice out there to continue. I mean, if you do some of the research, my granddaughter, we were doing a combat boot story event. And I got tagged for 2 events. And so my granddaughter was visiting, she's from Michigan, and my daughter and my sister-in-law went and did an event in Houston, Texas. Vanessa Gilliam's sisters were there, and my granddaughter was able to meet them before she joined the Army. But they picked up the book. And I do say, what if that program had been in place? Would that little girl still be alive today?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things I will always wonder.
Your grassroots effort is really, has a legacy, and people have heard about the program. But for those who haven't heard about the program, or for, there's a lot of military influencers, senior NCOs, and then, even junior field grade officers out there who want to make a difference. and you maybe pass the torch to them, and then, you know, they can carry on because they're in the ranks right now, and or what encouragement or tips or ways to navigate would you recommend for them?
So, so we have the first volume of the book, and that can be found at the inherboots.org, or you can find it on Amazon. And so with this book, it tells a little bit about the program in the back. So if people would just reach out to us, because we can create, we're getting old. I'll be 60. When this is aired, it's on my birthday on November 7th. So I'll be 60. And thoroughly enjoyed life. I can't say nothing, you know, and I got a lot more to live. But we create facilitator workbooks, because this is a monthly meeting, and you can take those basic that we've known and proven topics to talk about those young ladies, and you create a group, and that group is for that senior leader that's outside of the chain of command to be able to stay connected with that group, those women, for the next year. Because once the senior leader starts meeting with them, they're going to pick up real quick those signs or things to maybe guide and deter them from situations that they don't see yet. They don't understand their vulnerabilities. They don't know how to identify boundaries. And with this generation that's going on, it's even more prevalent. There is no boundaries, and you really got to have those boundaries, and you teach them how to set them along with the goals. And they have goals, but with the military, because they train us with this, but we have a different spin on that, because it's not only for the military, it's preparing you for when you get off active duty. What are you doing to set yourself up for success while on active duty, while using those resources, moving up through the ranks, and that you can just glide in to society and to the civilian side? Because, I mean, think about it. We had, 22 veterans commit suicide today. It's because they have the lack of a leadership to provide purpose, motivation, and direction. But if we instill that in themselves before they get off active duty, see, you don't see those statistics on the senior levels, because we were taught that coming up through the ranks. They don't get that at E4. And maybe if we can reduce that learning curve, we can reduce that suicide rate.
Mm-hmm. And I think I wanted to, that transition out of the military is such a difficult piece. Out of all of the things, when I'm reading your bio, you know, when you went in when you were 30, you had 3 kids, single mom, then you became, you know, you went to Airborne School and first female commander in the 173rd, and then transitioning out. What out of all of those was the most difficult?
The transition.
Yeah.
Even though as prepared as I was, I'm a field grade officer. I owned a construction company. I didn't realize, you know, and my kids were grown, okay, because I started late. So, you know, they were already out. My youngest son graduated from high school and went into college the year I retired. So I was married at the time, and I didn't realize, because I was so mission focused and being deployed, that my ex had his own 10-year retirement plan. And that's when you're married to somebody on active duty for 10 years, you're entitled to half their pay for the rest of the life. Well, he didn't read the fine print, and I retired, and I honestly say, this is about listening to your spirit, because it was time to go, you know, being told to sit down and not talk to the women. And that was my passion. You know, I love being an engineer, but that was my passion, was in the program. So I retired, and it was a couple of months before our 10-year anniversary. So here comes the 10-year anniversary. This man literally gives me a kiss, makes me breakfast that morning, gives me a kiss goodbye, tells me he's going to meet me in a meeting north of Dallas for a construction, but he need to go look at another project site. He didn't show up. I'm on the north side of Dallas, it was like a Thursday. So traffic, if you know anything about Dallas Fort Worth, there's just certain times you don't drive because it's going to take you 2 hours to get from the north to the south. He didn't show up, and this man cleared my house, took my trucks. He didn't even leave me a hammer. Cleared bank accounts, not my military. I always kept that separate. But cleaned the construction stuff out. It was gone. And so, of course, I had to hire an attorney, and which is ironic because now he's the mayor of Arlington. But he was a Marine. He had served in the Marines and took my case. But right before my hearing, I had to go to court. It was a week-long fight in court. I lost my aunt who practically raised me. 2 days later, my daughter's dad died. And exactly 30 days after my aunt died, my dad died. And then 1 week later, I was sitting in court fighting for everything. Because even though the retirement, he didn't meet that 10-year rule, Texas is a community property state. And so I was awarded all my houses and everything I had prepped for, and I was awarded all my retirement. I was awarded my construction company back, but never seen anything. You know, all I had was my name and my EIN number. And I did rebuild that back. And I did get government contracts from out of, you know, the different Corps of Engineers and the different posts, and then decided to close it down. But that was a tough time because that's not what I had planned. So you talk about a transition and you think you got your dreams and hope, and then it's like, whoa. And it was ironic because I had already written the first chapter of the book, and it just collapsed. So it took a while to get back up to finish writing that book. That was the mission. But everything, when you're in the right lane, everything's going to be thrown at you, you know, but you have to keep pushing forward.
Did he ever try to justify what he did? Or
No.
is he just I just stole it. I'm just a scumbag.
Yeah. So, you know, and he took my idea. I mean, I wrote a business plan and got the full grant because the people at Syracuse absolutely loved what I was doing. So, you know, I had my government contracting set, and then I started Dallas Metal Roofs. And so he actually, and this is why he didn't get anything, because the judge seen through it. He, even though I had a DBA, doing business as, he went in and incorporated that part of it out from under me. So it's like, you know, you win some, you lose some. I guess that wasn't meant to be, but that took a minute to get over. That's a lot because my kids were not here. You know, nothing. Everybody's grown, and I retired in Dallas. I didn't know anybody. I'd been gone, you know, deployment and stuff. And I come back, and I'm like, what? So it took a minute to get up. But, you know, I had a friend that I went to Texas A&M with. He was one of my classmates. He was a chief warrant officer. And we always laugh when we do things and I'm introducing the book. And I'll say, yeah, John's in the book. And of course, it's about predators, right? And like, and I go, wait, and you'll see the audience just freeze. And I'm like, no, not like that. You know, he's not a predator. He's still sitting by me. But he did. He called me one day and he was bouncing off things. I couldn't even get out of bed. You know, I mean, I've been there. And he said, get up, put your boots back on. He said, I'm going to call you every morning. You're going to tell me what you're going to do, and I'm going to call you every night. And you're going to tell me what you did. And he did that for me a couple of weeks. And that's what it took to get back on my feet and start rocking and rolling again.
And heck, you are. You're taking the world by storm, and I love it. I'm here for it.
I know what it's like. I mean, think about it. I was homeless before I joined the military. I did the military, and I thought I had this plan. But, you know, like if you write an operations order, you know what an op order is. I mean, we all know it goes out the window when the first shot's fired. So it's basically all you need to know is where your rally point is. But you know what? I mean, the first steps was, I was so happy in Iraq. I mean, I really was. I mean, you find the beauty and stuff. And I learned to line dance in Iraq. I know I'm a native Texan. I learned to line dance in Iraq. So I joined one of those meetup groups for line dancing. And then it was like, okay, I need to create a bucket list. It was on my spirit all day, create a bucket list. And I kind of blew it off. I crawled in bed that night. I turned on the TV and that show was on, Bucket List. And I said, oh my gosh. So I pulled out my laptop and I'm like, create a bucket list. Well, I've done a lot, and stuff. And one thing I'd never been exposed to or been around was horses. And so when I started the line dance, and I met a lady that owned a ranch near my house, and I started volunteering from there. And I met friends there, not there anymore. The nonprofit went away from her ranch, but I own my own horse. Actually, that's what I'm doing this weekend. I have 2 trailers, a live-in quarters trailer, and I'm loading up a girlfriend, and we're loading up our horses, and I'm going camping this weekend, with my horse. I absolutely love it. So I really believe in equine therapy. And honestly, my dream, and it's probably the next chapter in my life, would be a changing boots ranch. I would really think if we could do some kind of education, like basic training into the civilian world for women that have suffered MST, been victims of that, to get them to that, not just the survivor, but to that thriver part, and do a transition and use an equine therapy. That would be probably my most in-state dream going out of this venture we call life.
I think that's a great idea. I'd love for you to connect with Camp Brown Bear, which is a Navy SEAL run camp where they help PTSD military members and their families, and it's all free, and it's like out in the wilderness. And he created it for that purpose. But I wonder if you join forces, and you join forces and horses.
Oh my God, that's good. That's good. Forces and horses. I like that. Yes, if you could send me that information, I would love it.
Well, Lisa, you have, you've led such an interesting life with so much wisdom to share. And as you hit this milestone of a birthday in November, right? What's really next for you? What are you prioritizing for the next, decade or so for yourself and for your family?
Actually, I think it is, as I was saying about the ranch. My husband and I have a house down the street that my daughter-in-law and grandkids live in, and we are updating the houses, getting ready, watching the market so we can sell and move out to the country. Now, I live on a lake. In Dallas, Texas, that my husband goes out and catches. He just goes fishing, and stuff. I like to say my life's dictated by, a horse, a cat, a dog, and a bass. And that would be Mr. Bass, not the ones he's catching out of the lake. But we are looking for land for me to be able to do that. Like I said, most of my grandkids are grown, and now I'm watching them be adults, which is kind of all right. I started early, so that's the benefit. So when I look back and I think of all my friends that did, go on to work for somebody else and collecting that second retirement, gosh, I got to spend the last decade with my grandkids. I mean, watching them grow up, their teenage years. I mean, I got those 4 granddaughters, the oldest ones. And so I have a chapter in the book called Cookies in the Cookie Jar. And boy, I'm telling you, they know, they're in their 20s now. If they get in a situation, they will always hear Nana's voice talking about cookies in the cookie jar. Their job, it's human nature. There's little boys and there's little girls, and the little girl's job is to protect those cookies in the cookie jar. And so it's a running joke, if their parents say we need to talk, they're like, oh no, not the cookies in the cookie jar. But the most feedback I get in the book about the best chapter is the cookies in the cookie jar, because it's just a different approach of, a real situation and really what's going on in life. So with that is continue to watch my grandkids. Hopefully nobody makes me a great grandmother. On my husband's side, we are great grandparents, but thoroughly enjoying life. But
and what advice would you give to women who are just entering the military, or in the grind right now as what they're struggling with, some things, whether enlisted or officer? What advice, timeless advice, would you offer them?
Know yourself. Know what you want. Don't be pressured into anything. And to know that we are out here. You can go to inherboots.org. You can reach out to any of us, and we're there to give advice or even just listen. And that's the whole thing, is just listening. But we've been there. Like I said, my business partner, Janice, 34 years in, she was the first division commander for the engineers. So, I mean, there's a world of advice. And if you really want to learn and grow in an area, and maybe you only do 4 years or maybe you do 20, but there's words of wisdom from women that are older. Nobody's in competition. We all have our own race to run in this life. So when the military and you're on the range, qualifying with your weapon, and the drill sergeants will always yell, watch your lane only. Don't shoot your buddies' targets down, watch your lane. And that's what I would say. Know yourself, watch your lane. Don't worry about what your buddies are doing in their lane.
Well, great advice for anyone, young men, young women, or those transitioning from active duty and then into their veteran, their post-service life, and is to be a veteran. You know, the challenge continues. But what a fantastic story. Thank you so much for sharing.
With the jewelry, I like to say our motto is, we serve our country, we serve our branch, we earned our boots. So when somebody grabs their boots, they can remember they've been there before. They can do it again. When times are tough, you put your boots back on and you push forward, because it's in you. You just don't remember it, and you need a reminder sometimes.
Yes, I think I love it. I love everything you're doing. Everybody go to combatbootsjewelry.com, inherboots.org. Also Facebook, Instagram, Combat Boots Jewelry. Lisa, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I feel
Thank you for having me.
I've really enjoyed talking with you. And I hope that you'll come back and talk to us again someday.
Oh, yes. And please share that information. Forces and horses. I absolutely love that. That might be a new tagline there, you know.
There you go. I put the campbrownbearusa.org in the chat. Maybe we'll put that in the show notes as well. And I know the owner there, so maybe we can link something up. Let's make it happen.
Okay. Yes, let's do. I'm on for the next chapter of my life.
All right. I'm excited to watch it. All right, Alphas, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I've enjoyed talking to Lisa. I know Amy has. I hope that you'll stick around after the break. See you soon.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
The goal of the American Legion's Be the One campaign is to destigmatize asking for mental health support.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one who saves one veteran.
Go to BeTheOne.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
All right. Wow. Amy, what did you think? I was blown away.
Yeah, Lisa has got, such an incredible story, but her heart is in the right place for trying to help, female veterans and really build some partnerships and develop some experiences for those veterans and share her story. So it's that type of grassroots efforts those are the types of people that get stuff done. So I loved chatting with her. She's just, one of those people that can, you just want to be around her. You want to partner with her because her energy and her, desire to help others makes you want to do the same thing.
She's a bulldozer. I mean, look at all those things that she's had along the way, and she's just plowing right through them. Set them on. I love it. I love that kind of energy. So I'm glad to be able to chat with her, and I'm excited to follow what she's got going on.
Absolutely. Well, I know you got a lot going on, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about coming up. So
let's head into rapid fire. Okay, rapid fire number 1. The Navy promotes first female mortician to senior chief petty officer. This is from the Navy Times. For the first time in Navy history, the service promoted a female mortician to senior chief petty officer. Senior Chief Jessica Zugudza, originally from Perth, New York. I thought that was going to be New Zealand, but okay. Or Australia, I guess, is probably where Perth is. I don't know. Geography, that's not what the American Legion hired me. Oh, my God. She's from New York. It's also just the second Navy mortician ever to become a senior chief petty officer, the Navy said Monday. Although it's rare for morticians to promote to E8, Zugudza said she hopes her story encourages other sailors to not limit themselves and recognize what's possible in the field. I want my junior sailors to be able to see their future doesn't have a cap on it, she said, according to a Navy news release. They can continue to grow, excel, and achieve the unachievable. I wonder why it's rare. I wonder if there's like some sort of why would it be rare for them to reach E8? Perhaps there's the person that is their. Why do you think, Amy?
Well, those bean counters, as we call them, to make sure that there's a certain amount of people at a certain amount of rank. But I saw this story and I just thought, that's really great. And well, why can't they, have an E9, a master chief at that level, or a senior chief in E8? But good for her. Those people have such a difficult job nobody wants to do. But good for her. Someone recognized her talent and then was able to create the E8 billet and was able to promote her. And so that makes us all proud, because if she's breaking through and the ceiling on that particular rate and that particular job that is very unique, and nobody wants to do that. Just could be very emotionally takes a toll on you, I'm sure, and working with the doctors and the whole system of what that entails. So good for her.
I'm going to call it this time next year. We're going to see our first mortician promoted to E9. Here we go. This is what I'm calling it. Changing the Navies one step at a time, one podcast at a time.
Yeah. They're listening, I'm sure, and they'll take that on under advisement. So, we've got this second story. A beer drinking Marine Corps duck earned a citation for fighting at Tarawa. The Battle of Tarawa was 76 hours of pure death and destruction. In 1943, 18,000 U.S. Marines duked it out with more than 2,600 Japanese Marines. Among the 18,000 who landed on the island was Sergeant Jack Seawash Cornelius, who had one confirmed kill almost immediately upon landing. It wouldn't have stood out among all the other Marines fighting on the island if Sergeant Cornelius hadn't been a hard-drinking, hard-fighting Marine Corps duck. Okay, so as the story goes, Sergeant Francis Pappy Fagan either won the duck in a poker hand or won it in a raffle, since winning a duck in a raffle during war seems unrealistic. It's far more likely that it was in the poker bet, I'm sure. Knowing Marines, it was in a poker bet. And like so many other Marines, Pappy's duck enjoyed drinking beer, a lot of beer, served the way it was served in New Zealand, warm. Cornelius also trained with Marines, and it wasn't long before the duck knew exactly what to do and when to do it, jumping into foxholes, taking cover, and taking the fight to the enemy. When D-Day arrived for the Battle of Tarawa, Cornelius was right there with him when the Marines' boots hit the sand, and so did Sergeant Cornelius's webbed feet. In the middle of the brutal melee, Marines fought the Japanese defenders, and the prize duck of the 2nd Marines found an enemy of her own, a Japanese rooster. The two began fighting a mini battle of their own. The rooster got some licks in on Cornelius, but anyone who's encountered an aggressive waterfowl knows they didn't give up easily. A Japanese rooster can hit hard, but Cornelius didn't give up until the enemy rooster was defeated. Now, these stories, there's kind of far-fetched, but there's got to be a shred of truth to there somewhere. But kind of funny to imagine this.
I love it. This is the kind of stories I live for. I want every everyone to have a fighting duck of their own. There's no way, however, that duck beat a rooster. Roosters are plotting. They're evil. I had 3 roosters in my backyard. In my backyard in New Jersey on McGuire Air Force Base, it was my backyard lined up with the regular houses. They had a bunch of roosters. They used to come under the fence and they would just scream from 3 a.m. They don't care if the sun's up. They cock-a-doodle-doo all day long. And one of the neighbor's dogs got out and took the rooster in its mouth and was taking it back through the doggy door inside their house, inside my neighbor's house. I chased this dog in the backyard going, no one likes the rooster, but you can't eat the rooster. But you know that my neighbors, they weren't like, thank you so much. You didn't leave a bloody rooster in my living room. They were just kind of like, oh, he wouldn't have eaten it. It's fine. Anyway, this feels like this is all like something that I've had to deal with. But what I'm saying is the Marines shot that rooster. There's no way that duck beat that rooster. They shot and ate that rooster, and I'm proud of them. I don't know if you've had the privilege to meet Chesty, the Marine dog, the bulldog.
Yes, through the years, those wonderful little English bulldogs, I believe. So
Chesty's beautiful. I have met the most recent Chesty because the Chesty before him was NJP'd for biting the sergeant major. Yeah. So whoopsie doodles. We've got the Marines have some aggressive pets, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Animals have been integrated into, the Marine Corps, the military, the donkeys, the horses, the dogs. If they can take them along as a pet, they will certainly try. And that story was from We Are the Mighty. So shout out to them. So how about that next story?
Yeah, testing of Air Force all-electric plane set to start at Florida base. The Air Force is to begin testing an all-electric manned aircraft at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida as the U.S. military looks for ways to reduce its carbon footprint. Okay, yeah, you fly planes, Air Force. An ALIA airplane arrived at Eglin's Duke Field ahead of months of experimental work by the 413th Flight Test Squadron. The first test is scheduled for November 7th, the statement said. It is going to transform the way we see air travel in the world. Colonel Elliot Lee, director of the service's innovation arm, AFWorks, with an X because they're cool, said in the statement, it's also going to transform the way we have air power in the Air Force. The single ALIA model being tested in Florida can fly over 330 nautical miles on a single charge. It has a cruise speed of 100 knots and can carry 5 passengers or 1,250 pounds of cargo, plus a pilot, according to manufacturer Beta Technologies. It will be tested for resupply missions, cargo delivery, and personal transport, the company said. All right, this is what I ask. Anytime I hear of a cargo plane in the Air Force, how many ping pong balls can it carry? Because that's what we all want to know. The C5, mighty C5, it can carry like a bajillion. And there's something like, I'm going to look it up. What do you think about this while I look up how many waffles a C5 can hold?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. The unmanned and the all-electric, we're just in a new age, and good to see that the Air Force is testing these things out. Fast forward 20 years from now, and we're going to be all unmanned and electric, and it's just changing the way we're warfighting. And so I'm sure the airmen are really having fun with these toys and excited to see how this goes.
You have to find like a Tesla supercharger along the way. It's already inconvenient for cars. The answer is 25 million, I think, 844,746 ping pong balls. It can also carry 328 maybe billion aspirin tablets. Oh, and this is really good. 3,222,857 tortillas can fit on a C5. So I don't know, Eglin, maybe once you get to that, I'll really take you into consideration. But for now, I'm team C5.
Yeah. Well, my C5 and C130 days are over, but some good memories of those sitting in the back choking on the fuel, the JP5, JP8 fuel back there, and it who knows? We're in a new era. The next generation's got a lot of toys to play with.
I don't know. I like my husband when he flew C-130s, he would come back and he would smell like jet fuel. And I knew he was at work and not at a bar, you know? There's, it's like you smell good. And then I knew that if he's flying C-130s, I know he didn't have a bathroom. He had a bucket to go in. Like there's these little things that I knew that he was mildly inconvenienced. And who doesn't want that in a marriage?
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, everybody, I hope you've had a good time with us this week. We've enjoyed it. And I know this is like our third or fourth date, but I would like it if you would consider marrying both Amy and I. She might not be in. I haven't checked in with her yet, but we'll see. If you would, we wanted to bring up, hey, the American Legion. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a good resource. If you want to, you want to help veterans in your community, you want to connect with other veterans and military families in your community. If you're having a tough time, go join your local American Legion. I did a show at the Goose Creek American Legion recently in South Carolina, Charleston. It was fantastic. Everybody there was wonderful, from the post commander on, the way that it was run was fantastic. So go check it out. And if you want to make some friends, go there. It seemed like a great community. That's my shout out for the week, I guess. Amy, do you have any shout outs for the week?
Yeah, it's a special time of the year. It's Veterans Day, Marine Corps birthday on November 10th. Veterans Day is the very next day. And it's a time that we can honor our veterans. But, folks, COVID is over. It's time to get back in person. If you're looking to connect with other veterans, the American Legion is the place for you. So you can go online, go to the website. You can just simply Google American Legion locations and find the location that's nearest to you. Get involved. And we love to connect with you here, but we also know that there's someone waiting for you in person in your local hometown that can help, or just want to connect. Or if you want to give back to other veterans who are looking for you too, the American Legion is the place to do that. And so many of my friends and, service members that I know that I came up with are now getting involved in the American Legion. It's not your granddaddy's Legion anymore. So we can, hang with us here, of course, but also you can go hang out in person with your friends down at the American Legion post in, many places throughout the country. So I'm here in San Diego, and we're connecting in person down there as well. So I look forward to seeing you come out for some upcoming events. And then, of course, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there.
Happy Veterans Day, one and all. Thank you all for being here. Here's what I want to leave you with. If you could just subscribe to this podcast, you're already listening. Just subscribe to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. Do it maybe for like somebody you love in your life, maybe. And if you can't, do it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you consume podcasts. If you could leave us a review, that would be great. Give us a big old 5-star rating. And if you don't, what I'm going to do is replace all of your coffee with decaf.
No, don't do that.
No one got Amy. I have to do it, Amy. I have to do it. And I'm going to do it slowly. I'm going to wean you down. So you're just kind of like, oh, I feel a little off. I have a mild headache. It's not enough to go to the doctor, but it's just a little bee in my ear. What is it? What is this? This is really frustrating. And then you check your coffee and you're like, no, I'm getting the same amount of caffeine. Maybe I just need more sleep. And then your life just goes progressively downhill. And then one day you wake up and you realize, oh, I gave him a 4.5. She got me. I play the long game. Do it so the world knows how much you love us. If you have a guest recommendation, go to legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. Click on the suggest a guest link. We want to talk to the people you want us to talk to. Hey, everybody. Have a great week. Happy Veterans Day. Amy, thanks for being here as always.
Thank you, guys. Take care.